Okay, friends. Now we're going to talk about the family penta. So in the business aspect, I shared with you the business penta and the activations there and the skill sets that are in that aspect. Now we're going to look at the family. So the family is very similar. The family is actually about resources. If we were to actually go back in time, if there is such a thing, I don't know. If we were to go back in time, originally what took place was that it was family-run businesses. So the Penta was originally created around the family. So the family also is this resource and materialism mechanism. Okay, it tries to control how we raise our children. The Penta serves the Maya, which is the matrix. Okay, that's what it serves. Most of the sexual assault and murders that happen within a family happen there because this Penta is very aggressive. So family pentas aren't here to scare you. It's a mechanism. It's a transauric field that happens. It happens in business. It happens in family. It happens at a dinner party when there is more than two people. It just starts to happen. You'll watch how people come together, people pull apart. There will be different groups here, different groups there. And it all depends on the individual's energetic. And then when the individual enters into the Penta, does the Penta actually need them? Do they want them? Is it a requirement? That's it. It's so crazy. And it's of no fault to anybody. It's just happening. Okay. So how the Penta moves, and I believe I put this into the business aspect. How the Penta moves is that it goes from the 15 and the 46, and it moves down to the 5, over to the 14, okay? And then with the 46 down to the 29, over to the 14, and then up to the 2, and then out into the world, either going from the 7 to the 31, or the 1 and the 8, or the 13 and the 33. Okay, that's just how the Penta operates. There's an inner and an outer. That's how the energetic works. And what we're going to learn is that if there isn't people within the Penta with all of the energy, we're going to have gaps. And these gaps create, quote unquote, a problem, especially for our conditioned mind. Okay. In a business mechanism, it's so important to have all of those because the business needs to be able to operate with all 12 of the business skills. In the family, well, you're probably not going to get a complete skill set. Now, I'm not saying that that's always, right? There's large families that have 5, 6, 7 kids, and often all of the Penta is created within that. So let's take a look at the lower mechanic zone, okay? We always call these mechanics because that's what it is. They're energetic mechanics. And when we look at the lower, what the lower really teaches us is it teaches us that this is the internal mechanism of the family, okay? It's the internal mechanism of the family. This is the inner workings, very similar to a business where it is the inner workings of a business. This is the inner workings of the family. So inside of here, we have inner flow and home life. So this actually unifies all life into specific patterns. That's what the 5 and the 15 does. This is the simplicity of the cell. The cell has this beautiful aspect where it can be penetrated. Things can come and go out of a cell, but it's like this unified little body. Okay, so it holds the family into a pattern of the Penta itself. So if the five, it is the key that pulls the family together. It forces the family together. It's like this cohesion. It's the glue. It's the magnet that holds it all together. That's what the 15 is. That's where we find our magnetic monopole is a 15. It's the magnet. It pulls it together. So it pulls this auric form together so that there's an inner flow. And then the 5, this is the grounds for the patterns, the habit, the culture within the home. This establishes the way the home environment is going to be. This is the dynamic, right? The inner culture, how everyone knows how to live together. So is everyone swearing? Or is that not something that's a part of your culture? It kind of comes back to a little bit of the behavior patterns that are within the family. So if these are highlighted in the family, then the family has these. If somebody in the family either has the 5 or the 15, then all of a sudden there's this cohesion that happens, this magnetism that happens that can hold the family together. Now, if we look at the other side, the other leg of this is discovery and world. So it's interesting, right? So now we have the world in the lower part of the penta. Now the world's outside of us, and yet we have to feel comfortable on the inside of our family in order to go out into the world. We have to make a commitment to go out into the world. So this is to harmonize the family so that the feel good happens within the family, penta. The children learn not only how to function in the world, but also see how the family actually looks and operates in the world. So this is kind of where we're, looking out and going, okay, how are we supposed to operate and look in the outside world? Before we get there, we want to know that before we get there. So the 46, it is the force of homogenizing within the family unit. The 46 enforces the concept of the family security. That this is a place of nurturing and protection. This is where you get coordination. Okay, we get coordination here. So one of the keynotes for this entire channel is a discovery. We get to discover who we are first so that when we go out into the world, we can then see how we fit in, because that's what the Penta wants to do. Individuals don't want to fit in, but the collective sure wants you to fit in. So this is how do we make nice, right? And create harmony within the family so that when we go out into the world to have experiences that we know how we are supposed to be. Similar to the other side, right? What are the behaviors? This is the concept of the grounds of the family, going out into the world and taking action out into the world. There's a commitment of doing it together. So I have this in my body graph, the 29, not the 46, but I have the 29. And it's interesting because I have one sister who doesn't have it, but when she wants me to do things with her, she wants me to go places with her, she wants me to be with her so that she feels comfortable moving out into the world. And then here, so what goes on is that the 15 and the 5, the 46 and the 29, they come down and then they come up into the 14. So this is where we have demands in the material direction. There's an enormous pressure here and demands to maintain the family when you have children. There's material demands, time, energy, resources. So the 14, if we look at it as an individual, this is all about power skills. So this provides access to resources necessary for the material success of the family. The 2, however, it's the beginning of the direction and the identity of the family. The Penta is competitive and the direction is always material. There's a constant drive to be more materially successful. Okay, so how can we be more materially successful? Again, I'm going to say, what the biggest thing was, you know, and we've had this right from ancient times, is if you can have a plot of land, that says that all of a sudden you have some wealth, because now you can provide for your family. So you can create food for your family. You can sell things off of your farm to then create resources. And a lot of times families were huge, because that meant that there were more resources to work on the material demands of the family. And if somebody got sick, well, you had more people to still create resources in the family. Okay, now we're going to move to the lower. We're going to move to the upper part, not the lower part. We're going to move now up. So now, once the family, once it has its inner flow and its culture and its ability to have harmony in the family, and realize that there's new experience outside of the family, and they're generating the resources, they're creating the resources to move outside the family into a material direction. They're spending their money to get out of the family constraint. Now we're going to go to the outside world. Now we're going to take this family and we're going to go out to the world. So the 7 and the 31, this is logic, right? This is very logical. This is our logical movement out. So this is family discipline in the future. This is all about the family's reputation. To gain or lose respect is part of the material competition. So the 7 is all about the development of the child for the future of the family. So how much of the resources are allocated to education or healthcare needs? Because we want our future genetics to live on. The 31 brings the control mechanism of the family. Sees to it that the family has the discipline to fulfill the roles and succeed. There's discipline here. And we're going to get into the gap creation, like if there's gaps, so that you understand if this isn't present, what goes on. So we're going to talk about that aspect as well. This is when it is there. This is what's happening. This is why it's there. This is the role of each one of these penta channels in the family. Over on the other side, when we have the 13 and the 33, well, traditions and family past. This is, this is all, like, this is the story of the family. This is our historical written, or, some people have Christmas ornaments around that, a family tree. Like my husband and I, we have a whole bunch of images of the farm that we have over the last 15 years on what it looks like. What have we built, right? Like there's this history and tradition. So making memories through family traditions, how the history of the family is preserved. So the 13 is interest in the past stories and the secrets of the family. This organizes memory stories to provide continuity with the family members. The 33 organizes the events such as vacation, excursions, Sunday dinners. This is where tradition is created and shared and passed down from generation to generation to generation. Okay. And then we have the 1 and the 8. This is the present and the material demonstration. So now that the lower penta, right? It's harmonized, it's come together, there's this inner flow, it's generating all this income. Now there's a vision. Now we're going to demonstrate it out into the world. We want to be able to show and demonstrate how we are such a great family. So this is the ultimate expression of the family penta. Can this penta demonstrate its material success? The 8, how the family demonstrates their wealth and material success through the children, through possessions. The face of the family that the world sees, outdoing, the good things, making a contribution to society. And the 1 is the material direction. It realized in the present. Okay, it's realized in the present. Can the family build wealth and build a material legacy? That's what it wants to know in the present moment. How is this family being demonstrated out into the future, like right now in this moment? And, there's a lot of quote unquote respect that happens when a family shows up and they appear to be very successful. This is where they want to show that they're terrific. I see, this right here is the quintessential Christmas cards, right? When everybody wears the exact same color shirt, or they all wear the exact same hat. There's this demonstration and this PR that happens. Oh yes, our family is cohesive. Everybody has the same pajamas on in front of the Christmas tree, or at a wedding. All the family is coordinated into the exact same color, maybe different styles, but the exact same color. This is presentation. This is what's happening right now in this moment. Are we showing the world that we are successful? Okay, so it spends money on the success of the family. So this is what the Family Penta, this is what each one of these channels and gates represents. Now I'm going to show you, what if it's not there? What happens in the family? So looking at this, what if the Penta actually has gaps? What if there's nobody that carries that energy field? Then what's going to happen in the family? Okay, so we're going to look at the upper, and then we're going to look at the lower aspects of this. All right, so if we look at the lower, okay, the lower zones provide the energy for the entire Penta system. It establishes the energy, the fuel, and its flow. When there are gaps in the lower zones, the family will identify with problems in the inner life of the family. Because remember, here we have the 5, we have the 14, and we have the 29. This is all connected to the sacral center. So this is this life force energy that pushes the materialism up into the world. And if there's any kind of gaps in here, the inner life feels like there's some problems. Now, if it's upper, okay, if it's outside, if the upper zone carries the pressure for the Penta to demonstrate itself, it models, it establishes the presentation of the family and its material success. And when there are gaps in the upper zones, the family will identify with problems in the public demonstration of the family and how they think they are perceived. So if we go into the gaps, we're going to start in the bottom, we're going to start in the lower, and we're going to move up. So if there's a gap in the 15 or the 5, this inner flow, okay, or the home, in the 15, the family's not going to stay together for very long. Because the 15 is the inner flow. If there's none of that, if there's no flow inside the family's not going to stay together. The parents may force everyone together, but because there's no inner flow, there doesn't seem to be a reliability within the family. There's no cohesion. The family breaks up. The gap in the 5, well, possibly the home may not stay clean because there's no culture. There's no stable culture within the family, okay, or within the home. So there is no behavioral rules within the home. So now all of a sudden the inner flow, right? There's, there's no, the cellular structure, quote unquote, isn't as clean as other people's homes. Now, I'm not saying that like everybody that doesn't have this are going to be living in squalor. That's not what I'm saying. They have the ability to learn from it, okay, and bring in new things, possibly bring in a housekeeper, right? That is a total possibility. Maybe instead of being inside the family, depending on their penta, maybe they go out for dinner. Who knows? To create this inner flow, okay? To create a flow, to create this togetherness. Maybe they have to go into the world to do that. But inside the home, there doesn't seem to be this cohesion. So this is the family that everybody's eating dinner in their own bedrooms. They all got their own TVs. They all got their own room. They all got their own space. They don't stay together. They don't congregate in the living room or in the kitchen. If there's a gap in the 46 and the 29. So what is this? This is how we discover ourselves. So if there's no 46, there's no harmony, there's no coordination. So trying to get out into the outside world is like, it's so difficult. It's hard to coordinate everybody, get everybody together so that we can go out into the world, okay? And then they don't actually want to go out into the world together if there's no 29, because it's difficult to adapt to the outside world. And they let the past hold them back. They will let past upsets inside the family hold them back from actually going out into the world and enjoying the world. And the 14 and the 2, this is the gap in demands and material. So if both are missing, there's going to be a struggle to fulfill the family potential. In the 14, they could be just getting by, always looking for more. It doesn't feel very easy to create resources. In the 2, there's no family direction. It feels very chaotic and nobody knows how to spend the money correctly. They feel broke with no way to get more. So here, especially with the 2, having an accountant to help them, manage their money. Maybe they have to have somebody help them with a budget, those kind of things. And then with demands, this could be learning ways to create a passive income source. So instead of constantly generating, maybe they can get a passive income source where the upfront energetic is there. They have somebody guiding them on that. And then that passive income can take place for them. Okay. So now let's take a look at the upper aspects. So if the upper aspect has gaps, this is where we see issues going out and being in the outside world. So this is where, where we're trying to present ourselves and trying to move out into the world. This is where the gaps start to show up, if they're there. So in the 31 and the 7, this is family discipline, and this is the future. So again, the resources, how do we invest it into the children so that there's a future for the children? How do we keep them disciplined to moving forward? So there's a dilemma in the family reputation here, to gain or lose respect as part of the material competition. So with the 7, there's gaps in, no one knows how to plan for the future, right? That nobody's ever had a, you can bring in a consultant, right? You can bring in career counselors, all that kind of stuff, right? You can bring in me, I can help. And you'll be able to help as well because of their human designs. So no one knows how to talk with the child about their future. No one carries the push to think and manage about the future. And the 31, discipline, there's going to be a lack of discipline here. Who is in control? Who's not in control? Potential for verbal and physical abuse in the Penta, because nobody has control of the discipline. So it's like there's all these chickens just running all over, all these cats running all over, and there's no discipline around it. So this can be, getting, hiring a therapist and helping with these kind of things. It's not like the family's going to totally disintegrate because this stuff isn't there, but it's good to see it so that we can then have consultants come into our family and help us. So if we were to look at the 33 and the 13, gaps in the traditions and the family past. So there can be no traditions here, or extreme traditions, which can happen. Potential to overemphasize on an imaginary past. So if there's a gap in the 13, no real memories or stories, tendency towards false interpretations or hiding the truth, collecting photos that no one actually looks at. The 33, no one to organize the events or the traditions, the tendency to see the lack of traditions in the family. So attempts to create traditions where there isn't any real energy for it. So my mom held this, and when she passed away, I still have a sister who attempts, but most of us are, well, all of us, except for her, live in our hometown. So now there is no, like, she does it for her family. At Christmas, we always did the 24th. That is a German tradition, and my mom was Irish, but my father was German, so that was our tradition. We did the 24th. Well, as soon as my mom passed away, that tradition just moved away. It just stopped happening. My sister did it and continues to do it, but now there's no other family that actually takes the time to go and celebrate that Christmas Eve. So now if we have gaps in the 8 and the 1, this is the present and the material demonstration. So no capacity to create future wealth or resources. An overemphasis on keeping up appearances, competing in public. So with the 1, no one to work for creating wealth or change. Difficulties in working together as a family. So nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to work in the family business. And what we saw so much of this is, and we're still seeing it, this influx of human beings into large cities, all, of course, by a design that I'm not sure if I appreciate or not, to leave the family farm, the family business. So if there was nobody, if this was a gap in the present moment, then there was nobody to work. So if the gap is in the 8, may not be seen as a family by others, difficult for the entire family to be seen together. The pressure to, quote unquote, keep up with the Kardashians, but without any real capacity to demonstrate family contributions. So there is no demonstration. They don't want to demonstrate themselves out to the world because maybe they don't feel very successful as a family. Maybe they've moved on and got success in other spaces. So if we were to just take a look, when there's a gap in the upper zone, it can begin to dominate the penta. The penta can lose its perceived, remember there's always perceived in there, success. This is a conditioned distortion due to the gap in the zone and the rule being absent in the penta. The dysfunction can become the emphasis, and it is because it's mentally amplified as the obstacles to success. Gaps do not mean impossible. Awareness of the mechanics are needed. You know, we can get help all the time and address each one of these. We can bring consultants, therapists, accountants. You know, maybe we all get invited over to an aunt's home to have the tradition instead of in our own home. Okay, all of these things can happen. And then, of course, keeping up with the Kardashians. Here we have the Kardashians. I'm not a huge fan of this, but it's here and people know who they are. So the potential awareness to see the gap as structural, to see the penta as a mechanic, not personal. When we are aware of the pattern, we can let go of needing to fix the gap. And then it is no longer an actual problem. Okay, it's no longer an actual problem. If there are gaps in the upper zones of the penta, the problems appear to others. Ultimately, every family is in competition. The Penta is the auric push to demonstrate the family materially. If the Penta's pressure, it's the Penta's pressure that directs us, moves us to strive ahead. That's what the Penta is designed for. It wants more materially. Pressure can become personalized, and the mind can identify and then again create stories. So the mind turns the pressure and the lack into this fixed and faded or unresolved issue that's happening, okay? So now let's lean into, what do we do when we see all this? Of course, it all comes down to the exact same thing. Always, 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 it's about acceptance and awareness. That's what human design teaches us. Our individual energy, we get to accept it or not and live in a tortured life. Our relationships, we get to accept them or not and live in a tortured life. In our family pentas, in our business pentas. In the family, we can accept it or live in a tortured life. In the business penta, we can change it. We can shift it, move it, bring in things. Because it's not fixed. It's malleable. The business penta is malleable. The family is the family. Can we bring in consultants, therapists, accountants, personal trainers, people to help us organize our family photos, all of that? Yeah, we totally can. Okay. But the family is still the family. So the idea of family is deeply nourishing. The purpose of family is to work, to make more, to have more, to do more, and to bring continuity to life, generation after generation. The intensity of family is what most human beings experience in this life. So when gaps become, in the pentagraph, it becomes the pentas, or it becomes the family story. It can be deeply dysfunctional if we allow it to be. So the lack of functionality and the presence of gaps is a lot of the pressure to continue to produce children or have extended family live together. Or if we are open in that zone, there can be conditioned pressure to take on that role in the penta. So we're all born with openness. Every one of us has open gates, channels, centers, lines. So openness is not what we are here to live out. It is what we are here to become wise about. It's our wisdom potential. To experience the variety that life has to offer, and then just let it go. Gaps don't actually have to become a problem. Education allows us to recognize the mechanics. Awareness allows us to observe and accept the mechanics. Awareness allows us to experience our penta dynamics without judgment, accepting what's there and what's not there, and just observe it. That's all that we need to do. So when there is mechanical truth, there is no longer blame or fault. The work is to see the gaps as structural or mechanical. The mind's tendency is to overcompensate, have overreaction to the gap, undercompensate, denial or avoidance to the gap. The penta will remain preoccupied with the gap and the dilemmas or instability in the numbers. You can get help for some of the gaps, but as individuals, according to one's correctness from strategy and authority. Let go of needing to fix the gap, and then it is no longer a problem. Acceptance is the way to step into the duality of the problem of gaps. Awareness brings the clarity to stop putting undue pressure on each other to try to change something. So my sister took over the tradition. And for a long time, there was already 2 of us that had moved a really long ways away. So the 3 that were close, I guess there was 3 of us that moved a long ways away. The 2 that were still close had such a pressure to go to her house, to continue the tradition. But really nobody held that. As soon as mom passed, there was no more holding on to that tradition. And then everybody moved away, and the tradition, again, she's trying to do it, but it's still fading. So all we can do is accept it, observe it, and have the awareness. The moment you accept it, everything is fine. You can begin to appreciate what you value about each other. Okay, what do you value about each other? You can relate to the individual rather than the family. So there's no longer blame when we're there. Quantum physics teaches us this exact thing. The observation of an experiment changes the outcome of the experiment. A subject's behavior changes by the mere fact that they observed it. Because we see it through our perception. So the work of awareness is to observe the body's experience. There's no need for using, more force or trying to change it. If we learn to observe our experiment, the experiment will change on its own. Because no longer are we mentally conditioning the patterns and letting them be stubbornly persistent in our lives, where they become ruts in our brain and we easily are triggered by these patterns of behavior. The observation offers us a new perspective filled with present moment awareness and establishes a new neural pathway. All right, so go out, enjoy your time with the family. If there's gaps, see them for what they are, relax into that, and lean into acceptance.